All right. So, in part one, we kind of laid down the foundation of how like religious thinking bleeds into everything. And when I was done making part one, then I realized the title, which then creates a lot of understanding. When I was making part one, I was just in my flow. Um, and this all started because I was cleaning out my room, reorganizing it, and I have my really cool, I would call it my personal plaque, my graduation gift from graduating the mysteries. Let's see if it's over there. That triangle fire flame, which is uh, the inner mysteries. Like, I really like it. I made it myself uh, to symbolize the graduation. You know, there was like no graduation gift. uh, but mm, I just had a moment there, like on multiple levels. And I was like, it's really weird how I can like remember things. Like, I literally remember being in class and our head instructor, who was over our school, and her husband at the time, they were going through a divorce, was like over the global organization. It was him and her. And then they separated in divorce. And then she really built up her organization as an individual entity, and her organization became global as well. So they've always been a global mystery school. And they recently, or I say recently because, you know, things kind of move slow in such big levels, they relocated their headquarters to England because the headmistress is actually pretty old when I met her, and now she's even older. And she wanted to quit and give up the mantle because it takes a lot of energy to overseeing classes. And so she was saying, okay, people, you know, as good as it is, my physical body can only do so much. So she was already like 10 years ago looking for her replacement when I graduated. And I saw in class the real fundamental problem was religious thinking. And a lot of people come out of religion because, like, religion offers you some really good things. So it offers you structure, it offers you kind of like an identity until you find your own. And that structure, it helps you feel connected to something greater than you are. And it also gives you like a purpose until you find out your real purpose, or the reality of life shatters you and your grand purpose, you know, of being a rock star doesn't happen. So we have all these like um unrealistic ideas and purposes and visions and hopes about life when you're a kid, and it gets shattered into welcome to a work slave society. Let's use religion as an inoculation. So it serves a purpose, and then I feel like you grow out of that structure. Some of us never do. uh so it's almost like a parent figure. It could be like a tyrannical mother or father figure for you. I don't know what it is. Uh, but then you might outgrow it, become a teenager, and want to go explore life on your own. But there were some good things of religion, like prayer is good, feeling connected to a higher realm, and it kind of gives you a base set of answers that you don't really have to think about. So it, you know, where do spirits go? Do we really have spirits? Um, So, and then how do we fit those paranormal experiences, those shaman like moments in our life that might be hallmarked as psychotic break? So, with So then we see why there was a need for spiritualism, because maybe people wanted to get out of the box, and it's not like we can all go to South America and be shamans, especially at that time. So we have to think about time periods, what was available, the printing press, not TV, and then what was available, black and white TV and radio, and then what was available, color TV and better radio, and then what became even better. Um, and so now here we are. And so with the movement of communication and technology, and then we also got to think, people lived in small towns, small cities, and who knows if they had a high school education. So you could imagine, and then greed and the trickster type of energy of entertainment and deception within the spiritual, occult, and religious communities, to just bleed you for your money. Why work when you can just manipulate people? Why work when you can just do an act and get attention, being a psychic, being a fortune teller? And so, unfortunately, so this is why things should stay a secret. This is why things should stay silent and not revealed. So, as much good, like it was a great idea, hey, let's educate the world. Let's show them these spiritual techniques. Let's teach everyone martial arts. Let's teach so they can be empowered, right? Let's teach everyone shaman abilities so they can connect with their ancestors, right? It all sounds good. And then we see that humanity is like salt and pepper. It's like it's mixed. We have different levels. People take that information and go, how can I serve myself by deceiving other people? So the same technology for medical care turned into warfare. The same science that was designed to be beneficial then becomes destructive. And so it's a double-edged sword and a mixed bag. And once it's out of the bag, once the rabbit's out of the bag, it's free. Once you say it out your mouth, it goes into the collective to spin back around and hit you in the face again. The boomerang effect of karma and gossip. And so also a lot of misinterpretation happens, and then a lot of we select what we want to hear, we select what we want to focus on. So it's like a virus that mutates and then takes over the world. And so knowing this, look where we're at now. And it's going to continue. So when average people, so like just like in Harry Potter world, literally, are you a Puritan, or do you think it's okay to have crossbreeds? Do you think muggles should really be allowed into the magical world and performing magic? So as far as the Hogwarts Harry Potter world model goes, I'm a purist and pure lines only, for the fact of contamination. And what type of thing is being contaminated is it's the degrading effect and the misuse of magic, occult knowledge. So you have to have an element of play in all of this. And so when so the New Age movement, all this waking up culture it still has a bad shadow from spiritualism and a lot of con artists. And all that happened, we also got to think, people didn't have TV way back when. So it was like a circus. These performances of people going into trance, speaking in tongues to an audience that I think, so you could be super intelligent. You could be Einstein, but you literally don't have the resources to go get that university education. You may not even know a university exists. You may not have access. You might not even have enough money to go to a university in London, and you're clear out in some other place. So you might be in the Wild West, and the nearest town is 3 days' journey, and a medium is going to be there. And so, psychology was young. And so all you have to go on is your perceptions, maybe what you read, and shock value. I could imagine how sensational it was and the need for groups and community. So, like, religion was kind of everything. It made sense. It was like your little tribe and your way to be consistent and have continuity. It grounded you and created a kind of an order. And so theater did that as well. Education did that. Like university, school. So one reason why people like to go and get brainwashed is because it gave them a sense of self and gave them a context to see relatability within the little village, within the little city. So we now see the power. I'm seeing it as I just kind of speak these ideas as we're having this imagined discussion, two-way discussion about really kind of understanding the roots, to understand where we're at now and maybe how far off we are, or what got distorted, what needs to be trimmed. And are people going to stop distorting things? No. And so we saw the negative effects, and now we understand not everyone. So there's this divide that's always been there between a true occultist and New Agers. And the reality is, you can go. So an occultist can say, I want to go and look at, examine tarot and figure out these underlying principles of what makes it work. I want to go examine auras and out of body experiences, and what are the principles that make this work. I want to examine energy healing, metaphysical healing, mediumship. So you see, the occultist is kind of like a clear lens. The occultist is examining and asking these so they're like kind of like parapsychology, like parascientists or something. They're looking in on it, except they're not exactly scientists, because the pendulum swings both ways. They want the power too. They want to have these experiences, but on the same token, they want to understand them and make them again. And so there is, so that's kind of what's going on with an occultist. And so maybe it's clear now that, oh, I want to have these experiences, and I really want to ascend, and I really want to upgrade my DNA, and I want to be a co-creator, and you're a devotional, you're religious bent, you're that branch. And if that gets you to point A to point B faster, and if that's more efficient, own it. So just own it and go with it. And then if someone else, I look at myself and I'm like, I want all that, but I want all this too. I'm an occultist. And that's what separates occultists from scientists. Scientists maybe don't want the experience. They just maybe want to know how it's done, to make it under a certain set of standards and principles, talk about the models and theories. It's just like physics. And so here's scientists, here's occultists, and here's religious/devotional people. Even though they don't want to call themselves that, they are that. They're religious. And religion. So if you believe the The world is going into the 50. We're all waking up and it's inevitable. That's a religious thought. Like our whole planet is transcending to heaven. If you believe government conspiracies, reptile aliens, they're controlling us, and this is a wicked world, and we have to be the light, we have to educate people and awaken and share the love and the light, you're religious. You're a new ager. You've bought into new age thinking models, but their roots are religious. So these forces are outside of you. Boom. If you think so, here's these like new agers will dip a little bit into the occult and science, but then they'll always want to swing back. And so there's this vacillation, there's this tearing apart of the self, of an identity, until you truly choose it. You can say, yes, I'm a new ager. I'm not exactly an occultist, I'm not exactly a scientist, and I lean towards the religious bent. I truly believe in angels and their beings, and there's a plan and there's a divine order to things, and that's how my world works, and that's how I operate, and it gives me so much power. I'm a new ager, I'm a spiritualist, I'm religious, I'm a devotee. Great. No inner conflict. You're going to get a point A to point B faster. So I had to weed out my friend group because they have base religious thinking, or they have base new age thinking, and but I'm not that, so we're not really a match. What's confusing is I'll play in all their area. I'll go play in the religious new age realm. I want to have those experiences, but I also want to understand them and make a formula out of them, understand the mechanics and the principles of them, and that's just as important, or maybe even more important. So I lean towards the occult. So they're like, how can you work with spirit guides from time to time, yet not exactly believe in them? Or have a model of the universe to help solidify your identity and feel safe, because a nuclear bomb could go off because someone could just push the button. How come you don't have, and I don't need that structure. I don't need a model. As an occultist slash wizard, I understand we make our own models of reality called the construct. And that construct is always reaffirming my ego identity sense of self. But because my identity sense of self isn't a bunch of beliefs, a bunch of ideals, and a bunch of purpose, I'm more of an examiner, I'm more of a witness, and the roadmap to point A to point B isn't clear. It's a endless roadmap. Like the train goes many directions, and there is no end. It's open. And so here I am. So it can be, so obviously I have to have principles and ideals, but what's my purpose is to understand the principles. What's my purpose? Gather enough in. So you have to do field work and have experience. If you really want to understand a lion, besides reading about a lion and watching Discovery's channel on lions, you might actually want to go place your feet in Africa where they live to get a real sense of what the soil is like, what the air is like, what the plants are like. Now you start to get a sense of, oh, humans and the natural environment aren't suited. Some things have to change. Maybe it would be better to crawl on the ground on all fours. Maybe it would be better to have like a stiff, bristly hairs that don't catch certain plant materials. Like I need something efficient that shades me yet keeps me cool. So this is why I have this type of lion fur. Oh, I need to have this type of eyesight. I need to have these instincts. So you have to kind of like go and experience it in real time and see the differences. So as an occultist, you're going to want to meet a god to understand them. What is it made out of? What is it like interacting with it? You're going to want to dive into your own psychology, inner and outer. You're going to want to have some psychic experiences to understand what the psychic is going through. But then you also have to acknowledge the fact, oh, I'm not a psychic, I'm an occultist. So let me praise psychics, people who are hardwired for that, and actually maybe use them to help me discover more so we can discover together. So this is like a fusion and a union to bring back more knowledge. Okay, I want psychics to witness me doing a healing, and I want to see what they see, describe it from their terms. What do they, when I'm or when someone's channeling, let's get this other perspective. uh and so occultists are very curious about paranormal and spiritual. Spiritual just lands in the realm of paranormal. um so that's where it's kind of like a science. Let's set up an experiment. So I feel like the fuel of the occultist is experiment and gathering knowledge. So love, wisdom, power. The wisdom and power is a bigger deal to the occultist than maybe a new ager, a spiritualist, or whatever you want to call yourself. You might be more into the love and power, love of power, who knows? Ego, identity, creating a presence and money and wealth and bloom. So it depends on how you're going to play those love, wisdom, power things. But I think for the occultist or someone who studies Western mystery, knowledge equals power. Knowledge opens the door to the mystery so you can examine more. So you almost have to have a love of examination. And so to I feel like the pure examination, the pure experiment is, I don't care either way. I'm doing this experiment. And if I'm happy if there's no such thing as auras. I'm happy if there is such thing as auras. I'm happy either way. My pleasure is coming from the examination to know, to understand. And literally, that is the password to get in. I wish to know. I wish to understand. To know thyself is so you can know yourself outwardly through all the phenomenon, or you can know yourself inwardly through all the phenomenon, and you can know yourself outwardly and inwardly through all the phenomenon. As above, so below, as within, so without. So this is like the cornerstone of occultism, Western mystery. So, has this served me in my religious endeavors? Yeah. Has it served me in my mystical devotions? Yes. Has it served me when I've encountered voodoo gods? I've encountered a few of these like African deities who spontaneously showed up in my life. The Hindu deities who've showed up into my life. At this archetypal level of god forms and forces interacting with me, it's like Spider-Man in the comics and in the cartoon show, where he meets that woman, the like Spider Woman with the glasses and the cigarette and the chair, and she's like a cosmic being, kind of like prophesying. And I don't know if it's part of his mind or whatever. I just remember the cartoon, and or Picard would have encounters with Q. Uh, it's like that when the gods come to play with you, when certain levels of your inner psychology are open, where and maybe you solicited that you want to have these powerful shamanic mystical high level experiences. How's the occult help me make sense of that? Yes. And maybe even so that's the difference. It's like someone who doesn't understand, I'm working with these principles. I'm choosing each day to launch an experiment, to practice this formula slash ritual over again and again at a certain time. So there's a discipline there too. It's not, if I just keep praying more and doing service, I will then be rewarded with psychic abilities. If I just keep working with my chakras and singing this mantra, so faith, I'm gonna recite this mantra over and over again until I have a Kundalini awakening. The occultist goes, has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with your faith. That's an ascension thing. Like, it would be far easier to speak it in English so you know what you're saying, so you can have more intention behind it and your brain and physiology will understand it. So do that again, but now let's use your own language and then do it at the exact same time every day, or whatever moon phase. So the science of magic, the science of mystery, the science of shamanism, the science of it, like we're applying, and it's kind of it's an art and a science. So the occultist is getting competent in it. So you gain confidence and competence by what you're practicing and what you're doing. So you're going about these operations. So it's kind of a mindset. It's kind of an attitude, and that's the difference. And it might, in some instances, that's a harder path, where the devotional path will get you there a lot quicker. Just fully surrender and trust that your angel is waiting for you and you'll astral project. Yes, that's true. Versus, so there is definitely a healthy level of skepticism going on, and I feel like it becomes your foundation from your mystical experiences. It brings a level-headedness to you. It brings a practicality, and you get to apply it in every level of your life. So you can apply it to your own personal psychology, your counseling. You get to apply it to how you interact with people at work. Take the same astrology principles of the four elements, which are the four temperaments and motivations, and apply that to your coworkers. And so when you look at the world through an occultist lens, um, you see patterns, you see inner structures working, like kind of like clocks. It's a little bit, it's not so rigid, but you're like, wow, I can look at all my interactions at work in a very astrological way. I go, wow, we have abundant of water signs, and most of them are Scorpio, and we have a few Cancers, and we have a few Pisces. And so when I look at everyone on staff, we're all water signs. And I look at myself in the context of that, and I'm like, why is it that everywhere I go, people get removed until we're basically left with water signs? Interesting. This has now happened 3 times. That's the thinking on it. It's not, what a coincidence. My guides are directing my life and everything is falling into synchronicities and I'm waking up and in my spiritual path. Like, it's not a flowery mythical element. It's very, why am I being reflected? Why do I feel more comfortable with this? Will I stay? Will I go? Like, there's analyzation going on. It doesn't have to have like a spiritual endpoint, even though, so the occult will get involved in psychology, the occult gets involved in music, the occult gets involved in media, the occult gets involved in every single subject. There's nothing that the occult won't get involved in, but there's a way the occult gets involved in it, I think, really sums it up. And so here I am, 46 now, and I have applied these principles to my relationships, and especially my romantic relationship. And as an occultist, it's like, even though I believed we were soulmates and still hold that little, so even though there's that human part of me, it goes, whoa, the timing of this is awesome, and I really like this person. I definitely believe we're soulmates of some form. He's someone special to me. Now let me put that aside and let's look at this and analyze it. But let's also, the big part, let's do the experiments. We're not really attached to the outcomes. Let's be loving for a week and see what happens. Let's connect to our heart chakra for 6 months and see what happens. Let's say kind words, being conscious of the power of word, and see what happens. And so I've had an opportunity to launch creative experiments um, over a long period of time and try to look at the results. What materialized, what didn't materialize. And so it's been a hobby, it's been a curiosity, it's been very interesting, it's been experimental. So I've incorporated it into my lifestyle of my occult hobbies. And so that's how I went about it differently. So did the occult get involved in my personal relationship? The answer is yes. So, can you be an occultist and not practice magic, ritual, tarot, astrology, numerology? Yes, because it's kind of a mindset. But then, if you go into the occult and you have a religious New Age mindset, that might keep the veil. It might not support you in the essence of the occult. So it's like religion kind of has an aura. It kind of has an attitude. And if you fit into it and you like it, you can get a lot out of it. The occult has an attitude. It has, just like psychology has an attitude. Um, uh, Geeks have an attitude. Jocks have an attitude. Each group, there's an experience going on, and you have to have a mindset, and that mindset kind of creates an attitude. Corporate people have a certain attitude. They wear certain clothes. Doctors have a certain attitude. They wear certain clothes, and the ritual of the timing of events and the language. So everyone kind of speaks their modified language within that group, and they understand each other. Same with the occult. So really, like, get clear on who you are and what you're about, you know, and reflect that attitude